Welcome to this week's Q&A. We've had a great question from one of our viewers in London this week, and it relates to inflation, the impact of inflation on interest rates and rental incomes. So their question was, will my rental income keep up with inflation? And it's interesting, we've got to look at this in broad context over the long term, because over the long term, rental income tends to increase by at least CPI. So, the answer then would be yes, my rental income should keep up with inflation or exceed that. And in reality, the situation has been that we've had very small CPI increases over recent years. We've had very low inflationary environment, and that's muted all of these criteria. But now that that's changing and inflation is spiking in many parts of the world, and central banks are already raising or looking to raise their overnight cash rates, inflation is having an impact. Fixed interest rates for banks in Australia have already risen over the last few months. So these impacts are coming through, and I think that the Reserve Bank of Australia will probably increase rates twice later this year. So, that's coming along. So what's going to happen to my rental income? Well, it's also going to go up. That's what generally happens. So if you have a high quality asset, a high quality property in a sought after location, you should be able to expect that the rental income will increase by more than CPI, more than the inflationary pressures. And if we look at the latest data to the end of December in Australia, we see that rental yields have declined even further, down to sort of 3.22% per annum in aggregate. And that's because housing values have continued to increase. So it's an inverse relationship in terms of yield to capital value growth. But the underlying real cash flow situation has been that rental income has actually risen. And it's really interesting to note, because there's a wide disparity between some of the most expensive rental incomes and the cheapest rental incomes in the various cities. Sydney is a standout there where the gap is enormous, and we cover this off in detail in our quarterly review, so please have a look at that online if that's of greater interest to you. But in relation to this question, yes, what will tend to happen is that as inflation continues and central banks continue to raise rates, your interest bill will go up, unless you're on a fixed rate like many of our clients are, in which case that may not happen for quite some years to come, but your rental income should also increase. So that's potentially the good news behind that. If you like what you've heard and you're interested in this, please click like and follow us on our YouTube channel, and tune in next week. I'm Andrew Unterweger from Wise Guru. I look forward to seeing you then. All the very best.